Welcome and welcome back to Flosstube by the Stitching Owl. Today is September the 15th of 2023, and here in Southern Ontario we have lovely weather. The extreme heat has broken a bit and it is quite comfortable. Still sunny, but cooler in the morning and in the evening. We can sleep comfortably now. It's quite delightful. I hear that we're going to get a little bit warmer again, and I'm okay with that. I'm not ready for super cool weather just yet. I'm happy to say that I did send out a smile in the last couple of weeks to the Stitching Bunny. Not so happy to say that the United States Postal Service sent it back saying that I needed to package it up in a different way. So I'm going to do it a second time and make sure that it reaches her. I hope you'll check out her Flosstube videos. Stitching Bunny has an array of projects to share with us and a delightful flow to her chatter. Now, there is another Flosstuber called the Cross Stitch Bunny who is a completely different personality, but equally delightful and from across the seas in the British Isles, I believe. Now, let's see what I've been working on. So for fully finished objects this week, I have Halloween Tiny Town that I started and finished. Okay, now I'm holding this up. I'm going to put this up. So this is a heart and hand design. On this, when I hold this up, this is 32 count Stormy Night Lugana. When I put it closer, you're going to see that I only used one thread. This is sulky thread, and I found it stitched up really quickly. It only took me 4 days to stitch this. Now, I did stitch for 2 or 3 hours each of those days, but it was incredible fun. And the stitches lay really, really well with only one strand. There's great coverage on 32 count with just one strand. So I'm looking forward to making this into a drum before our next get together at the end of the month. Now I cut a strip all the way across my Lugana and ended up with a bit of space left. So I made an ornament. Now this ornament is not fully finished, it's just finished because I just have it laced at this point. And I don't have the beaded, good grief, I can't think of the word. Words can be hard sometimes. So that which we hold on to something with, good grief. It's not going to come, is it? Oh well. So hanger, there we go. So I don't have the hanger on yet, and I always put it back on, so it will be fully finished for next week. This is different coloring than it is in the picture here. Let's see if I can show the difference. There we go. So the boo is mostly the same color, but I did the pumpkins differently. On this one, I made the highlights in yellow to make it look like there was candles inside the pumpkins being lit up on Halloween night. Initially, they had been charted for white. So that was a finish. My other finish, last time we had for Autumn Barns from Waxing Moon, this particular finish and barn. I had planned to fully finish it. That didn't happen. But I did finish the second barn with the I choose to look at that V and think of them as Canada geese. I am a quilter, so I like the fact that there is a quilt square that would be painted onto the barn and quilt squares at the bottom. I love the autumn scene with the straw and the pumpkins here. I have enough space over here to do the third barn in that trio. This is called the Barn Trio Waxing Moon Designs. I am completing these on 22 count ivory hardanger, 1/1 with DMC. Now, when I'm doing ornaments, I'm going to be honest. I just pull from my stash whatever I've got handy. I don't take from my bigger projects the very carefully curated colors that blend well to make the big projects work. So these are often not the called for colors, and I just go with what feels right at the time. So that was my other fully finished. Now, what about FFOs? Well, I have something really exciting. I have 3 children, and until recently, none of them have been interested in cross-stitching, so my cross-stitching companion has been my dog Lola. At some point, I would love to introduce you to her. I thought it was going to be today, but she decided not to stay for the video. Last week, my daughter had her wisdom teeth out, and instead of staying at her apartment alone, she stayed here with us. And at our recent trip to Stitch It Central, she had purchased a small kit for cross stitch for her first try. I'm delighted to say that I'd say it was 3 different sessions, she sat next to me and kept at it, and she finished her bumblebee. Now when I hold this up, it is 14 count Aida cloth, but let's look at this. For a first try, she has very even stitching. I'm super pleased. I found it a little humorous that already in the first day that she was putting the back stitch in, she was like, "It's more fun to do the X's than the back stitch, Mom." And I'm like, there's lots of people on Flosstube that's going to agree with you on that one. But I am hoping that she's going to be my companion in stitching more times in the future, because she has already picked out her next project. So let's see if maybe sometime she will drop in for a cameo visit. So that was the first fully finished, but it wasn't mine, it was my daughter's. Now let's go to a finish by me. Last time I showed you finished Doreen Jones Halloween silhouette ornaments that I said I was going to make into a cube. I was able to do that. So here is my cube. So this is the jack-o'-lantern. What I had done was I took her one color silhouettes and I took one element on each pattern and colored it. So this one, I put the leaves in green. This one, the stars were in off-white. This one, the spider web and the cat's whiskers were in B5200. And this one, the moon was in 677, I believe was the number that I pulled. When I did the top, I did just the outline so that no matter what side I had out, the top was always going to be right side up. And this time when I did my cube, I put a piece of cardboard in the bottom so that when I lay it onto a flat surface, it was going to sit flat. One of the things that I found when I did my finish for Woof, Hands-On Designs square finish, is that I filled it so full of polyfill that even the bottom was rounded and it didn't sit very well on my coffee table. So what I did was I measured this, which was 3 inches by 3 inches, and then I took 1/8 of an inch off of all sides so that it just slid into the bottom easily, and that makes it so that it sits a little bit better and I can put it down anywhere for a flat sit. So this is my cube, and I will say I learned something. When I went around the edge for what I was going to whip stitch together, I did it 1/1. When I went to put this together, oh my goodness, that took me a long time and those stitches were tight. I looked up making an ornament, Katie Strachan's Ornamentations. She is an absolutely amazing finisher. And she said, when you're putting in the back stitch and you're going around to do this for the finishing, go over 2 or over 4 threads so that they are easier to put the whip stitches in. I'm going to follow her advice in the future. That was really tricky, and there was times that it didn't even lay particularly evenly. So while this is a finish, I don't feel that it is as good a finish as I would have liked it to be. But it's Halloween and I can put it out. Now, Doreen Jones has more than one silhouette grouping. So that was her first silhouette grouping. There's Silhouettes 2, and Silhouettes 2 actually isn't just done in black. So I purchased that set of patterns as well, and in the past 2 weeks I did 2 of those, and I went from nothing to a fully finish. So start to finish Saf. And this is the cat, so you'll notice that I'm still doing it 20 count on my mauve Ada. So we've got black, orange, and white. And she changed up the shape of her scroll work. I really think it's quite cute having that added color in. So here's her cat. And you're not going to be surprised, I also did the owl. So on the back, I have this purple paisley, which I thought fit very nicely. And around the edge, I'm just using a purple, it's a 5-weight floss that we use in Hardanger that is thicker than DMC, and I blanket stitch the front to the back, and in that way I don't use any glue on my ornaments in any way. If I ever change my mind, I am able to take these apart and reset them in a new setting. And I know you're thinking, why on earth would you take these apart? I'm not sure, but if I ever want to, I can. Okay, was that the only thing I fully finished? Well, actually, no. I talked to you the last time about falling in love with doing Biscornu from Modern Folk Embroidery. These are Jacob's patterns that I downloaded in PDF form. And what I've been doing, I like my biscorner to be a little bit smaller than these patterns are turning out to be. These are going to be very large pin cushions, very large, unless you do them on 40 count. And what I have been experimenting with again is my sulky thread, because I just love the sulky thread. I do wish that it was available in more colors, I must admit. That's the one thing that I would like, but there are quite a few colors available. And this time I took, which one was it? Oh, it was this one right here. And I took this flower portion and I made this. So what I did here, this is 32 count antique rose Lugana. And here I had 3 colors of sulky. This is a purple blue, mint green, and there's a little yellow, light yellow here. And then I took seed beads, and what I'm just going to put it up close. There's 2 colors of seed beads here, a light yellow and a mauve in here, to make that really quite sparkly. And then I added these parts right here, actually were the corner motif from that same pattern. So I do say to people, like, feel free when you've purchased this pattern, make it your own. I found it was really easy to do. It didn't take me very long to make this, and I feel that it turned out very well. And I'm very lucky. My mother allowed me to raid her button box quite a while ago, and she gave me like a full jar of buttons. So I was able to have one that fit in there and one that fit in there ever so beautifully. So if I can say to you, please don't be afraid of doing a biscornu. They are much easier than they look. So that was a fully finish. I'm not done. One of the things that I did last winter before I was a floss tuber was I started into the wreath swap series that were patterns put out by Stitching with the Housewives. There is Wreath Swap 2, and Wreath Swap 3 out now. And what they are is the word home, where the O has a series of different seasons presented so that you can use magnets on the back to change it up. Now, I ended up choosing to do mine on a 36 count Lugana, and I did use 2 strands of DMC. Again, I didn't tend to use exactly what they said. This is what, okay, let's see, I might have to actually stand up and stand back. There we go. There's my home with my O in this one is the scarecrows and pumpkins with the colored leaves for autumn. Now, I didn't do absolutely every O, but it's interesting that, like, right here, if you have good magnets, they hold through even this piece of the other O. So here's my daisies. My Christmas wreath. Now this snowflake will look different than most people's snowflakes because there was supposed to be a snowman, but I thought their snowflakes looked so pretty that I just put snowflakes all the way around. This is strawberries for June. Halloween witches, spring tulips, Valentine roses, and August sunflowers and bees. Now, I have not completed any of the Wreath Swap 3 for that particular series. That's going to be a gift for a friend, as is. I'm actually going to do it again, and I think I'm going to do it on 20 count to make it a little bit smaller. Now, if you're wondering what the board is underneath, it actually is something from Walmart. And let's see if I take this off. It says welcome underneath. I just put the magnets on top of that. And I got it on a clearance so that it really wasn't very expensive. But it's got the hanger, it's ready to go, and it's easy enough to actually put on almost any wall because it's quite narrow. Many of us have had the pleasure of stitching a pattern by stitching with the housewives. I have to say, they are constantly stitching and constantly putting out new patterns for all of us to enjoy. I don't think that there's any of you out there that don't know who they are. If for some reason you're one of those people, I will encourage you to look them up and be aware that every Saturday morning they make a new video. Even if they're not home, they will do one from a hotel room. So they are special ladies, and we are so lucky to have them in our community. Now, let's see, what does that bring us up to? I think I'm finally done with my fully finishes. So that brings me to my one whip. And yes, you guessed it, I'm going to show you my flamingo stocking again. I made good progress though, I'm really quite excited. Look at this, I made it to the bottom. This, I have to put the black around here, and I have to say the next time I do one of these, I'm not sure I'm going to put the black around the way the pattern shows. Because this obligates me to putting black piping around the outside, and I'm not sure that that's necessarily what the mood is, but the last time we were together, we did not have these Christmas balls and candles and a Christmas present in, so I got all of this in. So I'm absolutely thrilled with that, and I'm hoping that on my next couple of Sundays, I'll be able to fill in a good chunk of the toe. So at the moment, this is my full coverage piece. So the thing that you're going to notice is that the last time I did my Flosstube, so Flosstube number 3, one of the things that was in the title was, I'm going to do a BAP. And what I had picked, and I'm just gonna reach that up, was this fantastic owl, because I'm the stitching owl, and it is by the Shirova Creations on Etsy. My challenge in the past 2 weeks was that I purchased a piece of material, and then when I started it, I wasn't happy. I had wanted to get a dark material because I want to do 1/1. And when you're doing 18 or 20 count Aida, because I use Aida for my full coverage, I find that if the basic picture is darker in quality, I want to have a dark background so that we don't end up losing the saturation of these dark colors. I find the lighter colors still shine through, but the darker colors end up truer when they're on a dark. So I had purchased, when I went to my favorite local stitch shop, Stitches Central, they didn't have the 20 count that I wanted, so I picked up an 18. But when I put in my 1/1, the coverage was not what I wanted. So I sat for 48 hours and thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to go 2/1, or am I going to go and order 20 count? My heart had originally said that I wanted this to be on 20 count, so I went to 123 Stitch and I ordered the 20 count charcoal Aida. Well, it took until 2 days ago for it to arrive here in Canada. So I have not started my BAP, and I know that puts me behind because I did not start it with everybody else, but I'm okay with that because I'm going to be starting it on the piece of material that I want to. Last night I did grid it because you don't find the charcoal color gridded. What I do is I take white thread and I run it through, and it works really well for me because I just clip it out as I get to those areas. And yes, I leave little trails of small pieces of white thread. Drives my husband crazy, but it keeps me on track with my really large full coverages very nicely. So my back to school will be started for next time. Sorry to disappoint you today. It isn't there yet. Okay, so now there's one more thing for me to chat about. Today, before I came to do my Flosstube, I did my weekly visit to my mother. She's not in town. We have to drive to get to her. And she's 89 and is at that age where she said, every time we go, she says, so do you want this? She still lives in her house, and she is looking at trying to make sure that she gives things to people that will appreciate what it is, and that she knows then what is going to need to be sold someday. Today when I got there, she said, I have a drawer. And I said, oh, what's in the drawer? She said, well, let me show you. And I went, oh, really? And she says, I don't know if anybody's going to want this. And I was like, seriously? Anybody? No, like if you think no one wants it, I would be happy to have it. And she said, I don't think anyone else wants it. So what is it? Well, it's not cross stitch. However, I think I can actually do, I'm going to interrupt my own sentence. Have any of you watched Tiger Lily? Tiger Lily makes amazing project bags. And one of the things that she loves to do is to find previously loved and created embroidery pieces and cut out the good part and put them onto the fronts of her floss keepers and her project keepers. Well, I'm going to try to do a Tiger Lily creation. Now, I do know I am not going to be as effective as Tiger Lily. It's going to take some practice, but I've got lots to work with. Now, I'm not going to show you everything today because you don't need to be here that long. But, for instance, This is a piece that my mother made. Both ends of this runner, look at that. And my grandmother crocheted the edge. Is that not beautiful? And could you not see that on the front of a project bag? Now, some of these do have marks for me to work around, but that's okay. Tiger Lily works around it, so can I. This one, my mother was practicing her French knots and her lazy daisies. And my grandmother did her crocheting all around the edge. But look at that pretty heart. And because it's a runner, there's one on the other end. I can make 2 bags. Now, some of these are stitched on somewhat questionable material. I'm not entirely sure. Some of it seems like it's 100% cotton. Some of it seems like a cotton blend. The next one is 100% linen. And let's make sure I show you the right side. Baskets were something that were very popular to use in quilting and in embroidery. So this was something, and again, there's 2 ends to this runner with this picture embroidered on it for me to play with. And the last one I was going to show you today, this feels like it was done on cotton. It's butterflies. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? So I'm really hoping that I can have some fun with these items so that they actually see use, like they have not been out of her drawer in decades. At one point, every piece of furniture that we had one of these on the back of it. Our piano had this on the top of it. So like they were changed out on a regular basis. We have doilies that I haven't gone through all of the doilies yet that we have. We have hundreds of doilies. And I want to actually work on trying to include doilies. I'm just trying to figure out how to do those so that if I put them on a piece of material, it doesn't catch and become a problem when we're carrying them around. Because I want the project bags to still be useful to the stitcher, not just something that is pretty that we can't actually use. That just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I am hoping that I can find Tiger Lily in me and find a few project bags to make. Now, a few moments ago, I said to you that I ordered a piece of material from 123 Stitch. Now, as you know, things can't travel alone. So I did order a few patterns. So I'm going to call this area Future Fun instead of Haul, because that's exactly what it is to me. I did get my hands on Plum Street's Corgi Caboodle. My daughter loves corgis, so I really wanted to find this particular pattern. You know I like to make smalls, so of course I had to get the Prairie Schooler Prairie Birds. And again with the smalls, one of the things that I would love to do, we'll have to see whether I can do it. I'd like in December to set up a year in celebrations so that on the 1st of January I put a stitch into each month for the 12 by 12 and then see if I can get things going with regards to that. Now so far this month, I still have 15 more days in September. I fully finished 2 ornaments. Previously, I had 55 ornaments done in 2023, so that brings my total to 57. I will have at least 1 more done before the end of the month, and I'm hoping for more. So the counting continues. So that's where I'm going to leave it today for Flosstube number 4. I've enjoyed making these beautiful things to show you, and I hope that each of you will make something and make yourself happy. Goodbye for now.